From Lagos, Nigeria, this is News Central. I'm Felicity Ezewike. The top stories tonight. Senate committee to consider 31 proposals for state creation as part of fresh bid to amend the Constitution. PDP insists it will proceed with planned National Executive Committee meeting, says INEC lacks powers to regulate its gatherings. And Iran receives morale boost from Russia, launches retaliatory missiles at U.S. airbase in Qatar, following Saturday's strikes on its nuclear sites.
In business, Nigerian Ports Authority projects revenue a leap of about 1.2 trillion naira in 2025.
And in sports, the Super Falcons of Nigeria have played out a goalless draw with their counterparts from Portugal ahead of competition at the upcoming Africa Cup of Nations for women. Details in a moment.
A warm welcome. Tonight begins now. We begin tonight from the upper legislative chamber, where the Committee on the Review of the 1999 Constitution is planning to consider 31 proposals for state creation as part of a fresh bid to amend the country's constitution. Barao Jibril, Deputy President of the Senate and Chairman of the committee, said the proposals will be reviewed during a two-day zonal public hearing scheduled for July the 4th and 5th, 2025. The hearings will take place simultaneously in Lagos, Enugu, Ikotekpene, Jos, Maiduguri, and Kano. In a statement issued on Sunday, Special Advisor on Media and Publicity to the Deputy Senate President, Ismail Mudashir, said the committee is committed to gathering citizens' inputs on a wide range of constitutional amendments. Mudashir added that the committee received 5 state creation requests from the Southwest, South-South, and North Central zones, 7 from the Northeast, 6 from the Northwest, and 3 from the Southeast. The People's Democratic Party has insisted it will proceed with its National Executive Committee meeting scheduled for June 30, declaring that INEC lacks the constitutional power to regulate its meetings. According to the PDP, they had duly notified INEC of the upcoming NEC meeting in line with established practice, even though such meetings fall outside the category of the political events that legally require INEC's involvement. The Publicity Secretary explained that under Nigeria's laws and the PDP Constitution, INEC is only required to be notified of conventions, congresses, or primaries involving the election of party officers and candidates. And to one of the big stories today, President Bola Tinubu has wrapped up his tenure as the chairperson of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS. He has subsequently handed over to the President of Sierra Leone, Julius Bio, who emerged as his successor. The ceremony took place during the bloc's 67th ordinary session Sunday in Abuja, Nigeria.
In a symbolic moment marking a new chapter for regional diplomacy, President Bola Tinubu passed on the baton of ECOWAS leadership to President Julius Maada Bio of Sierra Leone, a move that comes amid heightened regional insecurity, political instability, and economic volatility.
We must equally confront the stark and persistent challenges that continue to impede our aspirations. Among them, at the moment, are the security threats, violent extremism, and other cross-border crimes that have continued to widen and deepen in their intensity.
President Tinubu's 2-year tenure was marked by strong diplomatic efforts in response to multiple military coups, especially in Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, and the eventual withdrawal of these countries from the regional bloc. While some commend his administration's firm stance on constitutional democracy, others believe more could have been achieved in addressing the root causes of instability, including poverty and weak governance structures.
There have been a couple of issues, that have bothered the ECOWAS region, and it's just the fact that we are not lacking in ideas and thoughts and what to do, but the execution of some of these ideas, some of these plans have always been the problem.
Now, as Julius Maada Bio steps into the role, many are asking a pressing question. Will Tinubu's shoes be too big for Bio to fill? As President Bio assumes the chairmanship, expectations are high. Observers say his leadership must prioritize key development concerns, including the free movement of persons within the region, implementation of a unified regional currency, and boosting the regional force to fight banditry and terrorism.
We've not been able to have the ECOWAS currency. We've not been able to have a free passage the way it should be. Some time ago, I was passing through the border at my border there, and you are still asking me for laissez-passer.
There is also renewed urgency for ECOWAS to strengthen trade links, stabilize its economy, and re-establish credibility in conflict resolution across member states. As ECOWAS navigates a new era of leadership, the eyes of West Africa and the world remain fixed on the path it chooses. In Lagos, for News Central, Oluwakemi Alimi.
Many thanks to Oluwakemi for an assessment of President Tinubu's tenure at the ECOWAS. I'm now joined by policy strategist and governance expert, Dr. Sam Amadi. It's a pleasure to have you on the news tonight. The president has done his time. Analysts say his tenure, however, was marked by turbulence, discontent, and they particularly mentioned the exit of 3 member states. But in his speech, his farewell speech, he said he leaves with a sense of fulfillment and optimism for the future of West Africa. Give us your quick assessment of his time as ECOWAS chairman. Is it a big shoe for Bio now?
Well, thank you for having me. I think we just have to be fair to Mr. President. I mean, unfortunately for him, he took over at the time there was a serious military coup in the 3 countries that are important members of the ECOWAS Confederacy. We can't attribute that to him, but we can now assess how he managed that outcome. So clearly, before he took over, ECOWAS, in my view, it was in a decline of a sort. Apart from the peacekeeping era, and there were a few conflicts that required peacekeeping, ECOWAS has not been notable for any major, intervention, whether at the level of democracy, economic development, integration, and so on. The ECU currency, common currency, didn't fly. Some of the conventions on democracy and elections and rule of law have not been, implemented. So it was essentially an ECOWAS that is not that significant in terms of what it has done to the continent. But analysts were of the view that perhaps he aggravated the exit of those 3 countries. The pugnacious approach in laying down, kind of a fiat, conditions and threatening, and even at some point mobilizing for attack, military attack, or threatening to mobilize military attack against those administration or regimes, kind of push them, arguably, to an extreme position of calling a bluff and exiting. So some analysts think that if he was a lot more diplomatic, strategic, perhaps, recognizing the weakness of the institution he's leading, the limit of power, but I think he was a bit gung-ho, Tinubu is somebody who is perhaps overconfident because of his own personal achievements. And so he took it to the policy, diplomatic field And one could argue that it was disastrous because they never got to reconcile. The bellicosity between these countries and the rest of Nigeria is very high.
Okay, what you're saying seems to echo a lot of the assessment I've seen online. It's not really about the institution per se, but the leadership that he brought to the table. Do you also subscribe to the school of thought that perhaps if he had provided a different, more green kind of flag relation leadership, these states, these countries might have found a way to make the situation more bearable than having them leave the ECOWAS completely? And that, however you look at it, it is a blemish on his record that in his time, no matter how porous the organization is, 3 bodies, 3 entities left.
I think so. I mean, since formation, nobody has exited ECOWAS, even those who are not happy with outcomes. So if record is record, if under your watch, 3 countries exited with vehemence and with some kind of hostility, then that's a demerit. That's a checklist for failure. I mean, yes, he can say things have changed. We're now witnessing Russia, a different geopolitics, in the West African region. We've seen anger at maybe France, and maybe someone can argue counterfactually that even if Tinubu was not there, even if it didn't react the way it reacted, maybe these guys would have got. But I take the view that the approach, saber rattling, the idea of we're going to invade, mobilize to fight you guys if the military doesn't hand over, was naive, was too arrogant, didn't quite proceed from a real strategic understanding about foreign policy. And considering that these countries also are not very troubled with Nigeria, there's been the Francophone and Nigeria have, even in, I used to work in foreign affairs advisor, they always go against us, to vote against us. So he didn't quite, maybe his advisors, I mean, new in government with this idea of Tinubu's mystique. So he miscarried the mission. He misassessed the risks and maybe naively dismissed this as junta, young boys who just took over power, who are Democrats. But look, these are successful coups. These are leaders who tap into disenchantment with their citizens and have high level of popularity. So I think it was not well managed, and that would be a problem for him. Yes, he talked about efforts to build the West African maybe force, standby force, or activate them, and a couple of things he has done, and least keep the rest together, continue to push Nigeria's support and the leadership in West Africa. Yes, he can cancel those. And of course, even this week that is handing over, we see a lot of economic activity going on, the West African Economic Summit. So it's not all bad, but the major thing, the major failure, which will override concern about his success, is that under his watch, 3 countries that have even significance to Nigeria in the strategic sense left and formed, not just left, formed their own confederacy, and in a very bitter relationship with the rest of the West African, countries. That, for me, is a major failure, arising from hubris and miscalculation, and perhaps not having around himself a better strategic team that understands the lay of the land and intricacies of diplomacy in the region.
All right. Tinubu did talk about what you were referring to was the ECOWAS standby force, and that was one of the things he was urging the ECOWAS to do better, because no nation can fight terrorism alone. That is to his credit. Thank you very much, Amadi, for speaking with us. We do appreciate your time and the insights you've provided, even though the time is short. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Coming up tonight, NNPC hikes petrol pump price in Abuja and Lagos. We'll tell you why when we come back. Do stay with us. watching tonight on News Central. A reminder of our top stories. Senate committee to consider 31 proposals for state creation as part of fresh bid to amend the Constitution. PDP insists it will proceed with planned National Executive Committee meetings as INEC lacks powers to regulate its gatherings. And Iran has received moral boost from Russia as it launches retaliatory missiles at U.S. airbase in Qatar following Saturday's strikes on its nuclear sites. Thank you for staying with us. Operatives of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, have arrested a former chief financial officer of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation Limited, Umar Issa. This is in connection with an alleged $7.2 billion fraud linked to the rehabilitation of the Kaduna, Warri, and Port Harcourt refineries. Officials of the NNPCL were being investigated for the alleged mismanagement of funds earmarked for the overhaul of these facilities. The EFCC is probing the disbursement of $1.5 billion allocated to the Port Harcourt refineries. $740.6 million released for the Kaduna refinery and $656.9 million approved for the Warri refinery. Sources confirmed Issa's arrest, revealing he was being investigated for alleged abuse of office, corruption, among other offenses. Retail outlets by the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited have effected an upward adjustment in the petrol pump price to 945 naira per litre in the Federal Capital Territory on Monday. It also adjusted its prices to 950 naira per litre at several of its outlets in Lagos, marking a fresh upward shift in the downstream retail market. The latest increase marks a fresh spike of 45 naira and 35 naira in Lagos and Abuja, up from the previous prices of 870 and 910 naira per litre. The price adjustments come just days after Dangote Petroleum Refinery increased its export depot price of petrol from 825 naira to 880 naira per litre. Let's tell you now that 7 states are taking steps to commence ranching as a way to prevent the wave of killings that has swept across farming communities in the North Central in recent weeks, in which hundreds of lives have been lost with wanton bloodletting. The states ready to commence ranching are Lagos, Plateau, Ondo, Zamfara, Bauchi, Delta, Niger, Kano, Jigawa, Nasarawa, and Anambra. The development comes against the surging killings in Benue and Plateau communities linked to armed herders. Last week, more than 200 persons were murdered in Yelewata, Benue State by armed assailants, and President Bola Tinubu attributed the incident to land grabbing and urged the governors to seek reconciliation. Let's talk more on this. We have Dr. Nemeka Obiariri, Policy Affairs and Investment Analyst, to share his thoughts on this development. It's good to have you on the news. The Ruga policy was introduced by Buhari's presidency to create what was described as designated areas for grazing and cattle rearing in the hopes of mitigating clashes over land and resources. But we know that critics have then raised concerns about potential to exacerbate ethnic tensions, of course, the land grabbing issues, as the president has said, and the imposition of some way of life on certain communities. Have we addressed these concerns raised enough to proceed as we are?
I will be very sincere and honest with you. The federal government of Nigeria, they are not being sincere with these issues that we're talking about. By the reason of the Land Use Act, land usance and control is within the purview of the governors. It's very shocking and preposterous that the federal government of Nigeria is delving into trying to provide leeway for land grabbing by people whose private business should be their private business. There's no the herdsman and the pig rearer and the poultry farmer There's no difference. There's no difference between any of them. These are private business owners that should, as much as possible, provide ranches for themselves. It's a commercial business. I'll give you an example. Look at Netherlands. Netherlands, with an arable landmass of 1.5 million hectares of land, has cow population of about 1.6 million. Deliberately scattered in 18,316 agro-pastoral centers. Farmers usually, and in integrated manner, allow themselves to integrate their farm with pastoralists in such a way that, of course, the poo from the pastoralists will be digested into organic fertilizer to fertilize the farm, whereas the farmers will cultivate things like maize, like the other things that they can use the stock to provide animal feed for the cows. Symbiotic, integrated relationship that does not come for the kind of rancor that we have in Nigeria. Netherlands, 1.6 million cow population, 800,000 tons of cheese produced annually, 12 billion liters of milk produced annually, massive beef, over $24 billion revenue annually within that sector. Nigeria, 19.5 billion cows. We still import over $1 billion worth of milk. The only thing that we hear is death and misery. The truth is, the people executing this massive killing and destruction are not herders. Let us stop deceiving ourselves. Any herdsman who has cow and wants to rear his cow knows what to do.
But Dr. Biari, if I may interject here, I have spoken to a lot of analysts and experts on this subject, and the consensus is it's more about land grabbing. Another one, like you are saying, that it's not a herder's problem. So what really is the problem that is taking lives so much? And the federal government, a lot of persons are saying this might seem like an effort to solve a problem that is very little, but something, you know. So if you say that is not the issue, then are we addressing something that is not the issue by talking about ranching?
We are not addressing the issue. The federal government of Nigeria, for whatever reasons best known to them, is playing the ostrich here. I was privileged in 2019 to speak at the PDP Governors Forum. And I was very emphatic. To be able to take care of 19 million cows, to rear a cow, open grazing, will require about 2 acres of land. To rear 19 million cows will require almost about 39 million acres of land, which is close to about 15 to 20 million hectares of land. The southeast alone, where I come from, has only 2.8 million hectares of land. The southwest has 19 million hectares of land. The same thing with the south, where you have massive land mass of about 69 million hectares, is in the north. And all over the world, from Israel to Saudi Arabia to Argentina to Botswana to Ethiopia to Sudan, you will see clearly how this, I made a suggestion to them. I said, if these governors are sincere, the governors of the north, and this is all about it's not about land grab, we did a proposal to them on what they can do. 2,500 agro-pastoral centers across the different electoral wards in the northern part of Nigeria. Each of these clusters will have 2,000 hectares of land. We will have ranches. We will have over 1,000 hectares of maize and sorghum and legume farm. We will have date palm plantations. All the government will do is to provide the enabling environment, provide security, set up agro rangers, 3 per cluster that will help us.
So this suggestion you're making, this suggestion you are making is similar to what is being put on the table, and it seems 11 states are already embracing it. Is it not?
It is not similar at all. It is not similar at all.
What is the difference?
What I am suggesting, the difference is that the federal government of Nigeria is injecting themselves into land grab. To do what I want, what I've suggested here, to be able to set up 2,500 agro-pastoral centers in 2,500 locations will require about $15 billion, $6 million per cluster. And each of these clusters will be able to get about $42 million annually. This 2,100 will create about 20 million jobs. It will require $15 billion to put.
So who will fund it?
Execute.
Because on the one hand, we're talking about, you know, settling a crisis. On the other hand, people are afraid that this might generate another. Because like it or not, a cattle rearing is a private business. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's a private business. So who will be funding these ranches that they're talking about? Because there are so many issues, and it seems we haven't even, you know, touched the head of it.
If the federal government is sincere and the governors are sincere, the first thing they would do is to ban open grazing. Ban it. This is 21st century. All over the world. In fact, if you look at Nigeria, is actually, if you go to Africa, Sudan, Ethiopia has more cow population than Nigeria. You will never hear anything like the madness we have in Nigeria. The truth is, some terrorists and the bandits and militia from outside Nigeria are hiding under the headers thing to grab land from the indigenous people of Nigeria. And the federal government of Nigeria is complicitly aiding them. Because the truth is, we've given them blanket black and white. How these things can be executed under private-public partnership arrangement. See, if we ban open grazing and ask every
Dr. Albert, I thought open grazing has already been banned in many states. We don't seem to have a problem with saying don't do this, don't do that. But are these orders being respected? Open grazing has been banned, but in most places, has that provided any feedback that is encouraging, you know, a continuous push for that?
Most of these governors are not enforcing it because they are very lazy, they are very incompetent, and they are still playing politics. Let me tell you, as a governor of Imo State, where I come from, it will not take me anything to mobilize funds to get the biggest. Let me tell you, some of the biggest animal husbandry companies from Namibia to South Africa to Netherlands to Brazil to Israel are willing to come to Nigeria to set up shops. We've done these proposals to them. From Imo State, we have about 27 local government areas. We can set up agro-pastoral clusters.
So what do we need?
People. Let me tell you.
What do we need to push these ideas to reality? Because we have a situation today. 11 states are already allocating land, and there are fears which we've raised at the beginning of this conversation. What would be a lasting move or something that would get us started in the right direction to stop these killings that we continue to hear about?
We have provided a template on how these things can be done transparently and accountably without anybody grabbing anybody's land. We've set out a template on how, see, let me tell you, these headers that are migrating to the south, where are they coming from? If you, even Niger State alone can provide enough accommodation for all these headers. The truth is, the federal government of Nigeria is not doing anything sincerely to tackle this matter. Ranching is a private business. Cow rearing, for crying out loud, is a private business. The same thing with the pig farmer, the same thing with the poultry farmer, the same thing with the fish farmer. If we are allocating land, state is allocated. So please, we have opportunity of creating $3 billion pig and pork business in Nigeria. When is the federal government of Nigeria allocating our own land to pig farmers across 11 states in Nigeria?
All right. Doctor, I guess this is one situation we'll continue to, find ways to find a middle ground. I hope no more lives are lost. That's a pipe dream. Thank you very much for speaking with us. We appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.
President Bola Tinubu has commissioned the newly constructed A2 PAI Road located in the Kwali Area Council of Abuja. The road is one of several newly constructed by the FCT Minister Nyesom Wike and will boost connectivity to the city center and reduce insecurity in the area. Our correspondent Bettina Uweli tells us more.
It is another day and the commissioning of another project within the capital by President Bola Tinubu. The focus today is on the newly constructed arterial road N5 from the Life Camp Junction to Ring Road 3. Officials of the FCT say that the project will benefit residents of the host community immensely, reduce traffic congestion within the city center, and create an atmosphere for business growth and development.
The completion of this project will open up the area for development, improve circulation and interconnection within the adjoining districts of Phase 3, which is Dape, Gwarimpa 1, Idu, and Umbora districts. It will improve and enhance socio-economic life of the residents in addition to other inherent benefits.
I must confess here that this newly constructed arterial road will no doubt enhance traffic flow, reduces time spent from one point or the other, to improve computer safety and boost economic activities along these axes. It also aligns with our border of transforming Abuja into a smart city, accessible and resilient infrastructure.
President Bola Tinubu, who was represented by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, George Akume, commended the project, saying that the road would ease traffic difficulties faced by residents of the area. He also tasked them to make judicious use of the infrastructure.
The arterial road N5 represents what we can achieve when vision meets action. It reflects on our commitment to deliver a modern infrastructure that improves the daily lives of our people. This road, named after a man of vision, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, now carries the legacy of forward-thinking leadership into the future of our capital city.
The Minister of the FCT, while thanking the federal government for its commitment to developing the nation's capital, called for support in ensuring that residents pay their taxes to support government's drive to provide an infrastructure.
I'm sure that everybody is happy that Mr. President is opening up the entire Abuja. But he won't do it with his blood. It is by us doing our own, by making sure we obey the laws, by making sure we carry out our own obligation of paying the little tax that is supposed to be.
With the construction of the Obafemi Awolowo Way from the Life Camp Junction to Ring Road 3, the FCT administration says that the federal government has yet again proven it is committed to restoring lost hope back to the citizens as part of its renewed hope agenda. In Abuja, for News Central, Aishat Salihu.
The Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Kudirat Kekere-Ekun, has called on judicial administrators to protect the integrity of the system. The Chief Justice made this call to officers serving in sensitive roles at the courts, including chief registrars, secretaries of judicial service commissions, and directors, during the opening of the hybrid national workshop on court administration and management. Kekere-Ekun urged them to uphold the ethical responsibilities of the job, resist compromise, and support the judges they work with.
Before I conclude, permit me to make a passionate appeal to all participants, especially those in sensitive administrative capacities, such as the chief registrars, secretaries of judicial service commissions, and directors. Uphold your ethical duties. Resist every temptation to compromise the integrity of the system. Support your judges. Ensure that court staff assigned to judicial officers are selected strictly on merit and with due regard to character, competence, and discipline. Your conduct in these areas will either strengthen or erode the public faith in our judiciary.
The way that we do the timing of these gatherings, particularly perhaps as our nation continue its relentless pursuits of a more efficient, accessible, and just judicial system. We are here of rapid technological advancements and evolving societal dynamics. The efficient administration and management of our courts is paramount to the effective delivery of justice. As custodians of justice, we are constantly challenged to innovate, adapt, and refine your processes in order to uphold the integrity of our justice system.
Outside Nigeria, Russian President Vladimir Putin has vowed to back Iran and condemned groundless aggression against its ally after the U.S. joined Israel in striking nuclear facilities at the weekend. Putin called recent strikes unjustified and added that Russia was making efforts to provide assistance to the Iranian people. Putin did not single out the U.S. attacks, talking instead broadly of strikes against Iran, though the Kremlin had earlier said it condemned and regretted the U.S. strikes. Meanwhile, Iran has launched missiles at a U.S. airbase in Qatar in response to weekend strikes on its nuclear sites. Qatar confirms the attack on the U.S.-run site, calling it a flagrant violation, and says it reserves the right to respond directly. The country has temporarily closed its airspace, and U.S. and U.K. citizens have been advised to shelter in place. Tonight returns with business, sports and entertainment updates. Stay with us. Yes, tonight we have Lekon to tell us what we should be knowing at this hour.
Well, of course, the Nigeria Ports Authority is actually targeting revenue growth, so I'll tell you more in a bit. The Nigerian Ports Authority projects a 1.28 trillion naira revenue target for 2025, a 40% increase from 894.86 billion naira in 2024, surpassing the 2024 goal of 865.39 billion naira announced by Managing Director Abubakar Dansoho during a 2025 budget defense in Abuja. The revenue comprises 544.06 billion naira from ship dues, 413.06 billion naira from cargo dues, 249.69 billion naira from concession fees, and 73.07 billion naira from administrative charges. Despite liquidity challenges, the NPA aims to enhance port efficiency and global competitiveness. We also tell you that the Securities and Exchange Commission has introduced tenure limits for directors of capital market operators classified as significant public interest entities in Nigeria. Effectively, immediately, directors are capped at 10 consecutive years in one company and 12 years within a group. A 3-year cooling off period is required for CEOs and executive directors before serving as chairman, limited to 4 years. The SEC also bans converting independent non-executive directors to executive directors, citing governance concerns. The vague designation criteria have sparked confusion, potentially affecting financial market infrastructure firms like FMDQ and NGX Group. The Daplu in Ivory Coast smugglers export a porous border with Guinea, of course, using dirt tracks to ferry cocoa on motorbikes, evading checkpoints driven by global cocoa prices tripling to $13,000 per ton in 2024. Smugglers earn $240 weekly, tripling the living wage despite risks of 10-year jail terms. Now, Ivory Coast's regulator sets farm gate prices at a third of global rates, incentivizing illegal trade to Guinea. Smuggling undermines traceability and tax revenue, with Guinea's exports rising 15% in 2023 to 2024. Let's now talk stocks. The NGX All-Share Index advanced to 0.37% to close at 118,579.65 points, while market capitalization rose to 74.81 trillion naira, reflecting sustained bullish sentiment across the sectors. And talking about sectoral performance, well, the banking index gained 0.62%, extending its recovery momentum. The insurance sector rose 0.73%, while oil and gas edged up 0.19%, driven by renewed investor interest. Consumer goods led the chart anyway, with 1.90% increase, and industrial goods followed with 0.43% uptick. And that's how we tracked the Nigerian bourse for today. And that's all on Business News 2. I am Lekon Obanjo.
Today's here with the sports stories. Super Falcons nearly, but not totally.
Well, they did their very best. They held Portugal to a goalless draw. Don't forget that they're preparing for the upcoming Women's Africa Cup of Nations in Morocco. We'll talk about all that and much more after the break. Hello and welcome to sports. Nigeria's women's national football team, the Super Falcons, held Portugal to a goalless draw in a preparatory match for the upcoming Women's Africa Cup of Nations tournament, which will be hosted by Morocco. Played at the Estadio José Gomes in Amadora, Portugal dominated possession and applied aggressive pressing tactics that limited Nigeria's ability to build from the back. Despite constant pressure, the Falcons' defensive unit held firm, earning a clean sheet. The draw offers positives for Nigeria's technical team ahead of competitive action in Morocco. Desiree Ellis has named a 26-player squad for the Women's Africa Cup of Nations. South Africa prepare to defend its title in Morocco from the 5th to the 26th of July. They are the reigning continental champions, having secured their first ever continental crown in 2022 by defeating host Morocco in a historic final. Ellis is aiming for back-to-back success with a squad that blends domestic strength and international experience. Mamelodi Sundowns Ladies has the greatest representation with 8 players. The team will, however, be without star forward Thembi Kagatlana, who withdrew for personal reasons. Bayana have been drawn in Group B alongside Ghana, Tanzania, and Mali. To boxing now, the Nigerian Boxing Federation has announced the inaugural National Secondary School Boxing Tournament set to run for 6 days from the 3rd to the 9th of August. The event, backed by the National Sports Commission, targets young boxers aged 12 to 15 and aims to identify and groom future champions to represent Nigeria. The tournament will feature competitive matches and offer participants valuable guidance from experienced boxing coaches. This initiative marks a major step in youth sports development, with the NBF focused on building a strong foundation for the sport at grassroots level and nurturing the next generation of boxing talent across the country. In athletics, world record holder Tobi Amusan will compete in the women's 100-meter hurdles at the Golden Spike meet in Ostrava, Czech Republic on Tuesday at 5:35 p.m. Nigerian time. Coming off a season's best 12.24 seconds in Paris, her second fastest time ever, Amusan will be aiming to improve her performance as she builds momentum ahead of major championships. She is the standout name in the field, with her closest competition expected from Ireland's Sarah Lavine, who has a personal best of 12.62 seconds, and Slovakia's Victoria Foster, who has 12.72 seconds. The race presents another opportunity for Amusan to test her form and dominance. And that's all we have on Sports Tonight. It's back to you, Felicity.
Sam Dandy joins me now for the big stories in entertainment. Sam, what are we looking at?
Super excited. Now, I'm a fan of music, so Darko has a new collaboration coming out with Nice, and it's one of his classics. I mean, Congaso. We're definitely going to see what this new version sounds like. I'll give you all the details after this quick break. Right into it, British-Nigerian singer Darko is gearing up to release what she's called Sexy Girl Summer, her upcoming EP. Right now, her latest teaser post has fans buzzing. The 23-year-old is tapping into the nostalgic vibe with a new record sampling the hit song Kongaso by Nigerian OG musician Nice. The track will also feature the legendary singer himself. Now, Kongaso, originally released in 2008, was a defining anthem in Nigerian music, earning Nice nationwide acclaim. Set to drop on Friday, June the 23rd, the 8th track project already has fan favorites like Favorite Girl with Rema, Right Now with Russian, and Focus on Me, which also sampled P Square's 2009 hit, Gimme That. We're seeing a lot of people remake old classics, whether it's from film and now music, and I'm loving it. What do you think, Felicity?
Yeah, it's cool. I just know the chorus to that song. I knew it was a big deal back then, so I'm looking forward to what it sounds like.
Well, let's move from that one out the continent. Pharrell, well, yes, the Pharrell, he's just sued, of course, a clothing brand. Now, Pharrell, of course, has a clothing brand called BBC Ice Cream, and now he sued another brand called Spreadshirt. Now, what they did was Spreadshirt is a platform that also sells other clothes. And now he's alleging, of course, for $14 million that they knew that the people were putting fake of these brands on their platform, and then the platform itself would sell it, and they were making money off it. So Pharrell, once, of course, him and his team found out, they're suing for $14 million. Now, this is interesting because in Nigeria, we've seen, not just in this part of the world, we see a lot of fake stuff sometimes. Many times we don't expect the owners of the brands to actually come out and sue, especially if they find whoever is pushing it. But in this case, Pharrell says he's not playing about it. $14 million is a lot of money.
Well, to some, yeah, creativity, you have to give them that credit. And also, they live in a place that things are a lot more organized.
Sure.
Here, is it a Alaba market you want to buy? Monitor, Aba in Ariaria in Aba. So,
Sure.
Yeah, it's fair to always give people their credit, but you cannot take away those who would want to profit off your inventions.
Well, we hope that this is some warning, at least, to brands or people who are supporting these fake-made. But hopefully, let's hope that these will even get better in countries like Nigeria, and it will stop completely, so everyone is given credit. But those are the two biggest stories in entertainment. I am Sam Dandy.
And that's the news tonight. But before we go, a quick reminder of our top stories. The Senate committee is to consider 31 proposals for state creation as part of fresh bid to amend the Nigerian constitution. The PDP is insisting it will proceed with the planned National Executive Committee meeting, says INEC lacks powers to regulate its gatherings. We also brought you the story that Iran has received moral boost from Russia as it launches retaliatory missiles at U.S. airbase in Qatar following weekend strikes on its nuclear sites. As always, we would love to hear from you. Please send your eyewitness report to the number showing now on your screen. You can follow us on social media at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, GoTV channel 23, Star Times channel 274, Apple TV, and on YouTube. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Have a good night.